You are listening to HOA Neighbor Court. The easement word came out like a curse. Karen yelled that my fence was non-compliant and she would not leave until I admitted it. I will not be disrespected, she shouted, jabbing her phone on a gimbal toward my face like a weapon. I held up the gate hinge I had just unscrewed and kept my voice level. The fence is exactly where the permit says it should be, Shirley. You can film all you want. She stepped closer, blocking my driveway. I am the Special Assessment Coordinator for the Survey Ridge Terrace Association, she said, her voice rising with every word. That fence is over the setback line, and it is not in the design palette. You will remove it by Friday, or you will be fined $250 per day. This conversation is not a debate, it is a directive. I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, in a neighborhood where the community portal is full of fence photos and accusations. Every property line is contested like a border dispute. I work remotely as a software developer, on video calls all day, and I thought a privacy fence would finally give me some peace. I pulled the permit 3 weeks ago, hired a licensed contractor, and had the thing up in 2 days. It looked perfect. Then Shirley showed up with her gimbal rig and her rules binder. She tapped her phone screen. I have photographic evidence that your fence screening fabric is rolled up and visible from the street. That violates Section 12.4 of the design guidelines. The fabric was temporary while we adjusted the post caps. I pointed to the fence. The caps cracked during install. We are replacing them tomorrow. She smirked. Then you should have waited to complete the project before you made it visible. The board will back me because they are afraid of me. I felt my jaw tighten. She said it so casually, like it was a fact of nature. A neighbor walked past on the sidewalk, a mail carrier I recognized named Dennis. He slowed down, arms crossed, watching with a smirk. Shirley did not notice him. She was too busy positioning her phone for a close-up of the fence post. I have the permit number, I said. The city inspector signed off. The setback is clear. Shirley pulled a folded sheet from her cardigan pocket and snapped it open. It was a violation notice, freshly printed. Her portable thermal printer was clipped to her belt like a badge. She had been printing these on the spot at every house she targeted. This is your official notice, she said. Compliance hearing is Monday at 7. If you do not attend, the fine starts automatically. I took the paper. It listed my address, the alleged violation, and a reference to some subsection I had never heard of. No photos, no measurements, just her word. What about the survey? I asked. Shirley tilted her head. What survey? The one the contractor filed with the HOA when we applied for the permit. It shows the exact property line and the setback clearance. She waved her hand dismissively. I have not seen any survey. If you want to claim one exists, bring it to the hearing. Until then, the fence is presumed non-compliant. That was the moment I knew she was lying. I had watched the contractor email the survey packet to the HOA office myself. But I did not mention my evidence yet, because I wanted her to repeat the story first. Dennis, the mail carrier, stopped at my mailbox and made a show of checking his bag. He was clearly listening. Shirley finally noticed him and turned. Can I help you? Dennis shrugged. Just doing my route. But I have been seeing a lot of notices on the street lately. Shirley snapped her binder shut. That is because people refuse to follow the rules. Dennis nodded slowly, still smirking, and walked on. I filed that moment away. He had seen her post notices repeatedly, and I knew I might need him later. Shirley turned back to me. You have until Friday to remove the fence or start the fine clock. Your choice. She turned and walked toward her car, a silver SUV parked halfway into my driveway. The gimbal rig swayed as she moved. I stood there holding the gate hinge and the violation notice, the wind pulling at the loose caution tape I had strung around the work zone. I went inside and pulled up the email thread with the contractor. The survey was right there, attached as a single-page scan. It showed my property line, the setback distance, and a stamp from a licensed surveyor dated 2 weeks before we broke ground. I forwarded it to myself and printed 3 copies. Then I called the contractor. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey," I said. "Did you get any pushback from the HOA when you submitted the fence permit?" He laughed. "Are you talking about Shirley?" "Yeah, she called me last week and told me the project was under review. I told her we already had city approval and an HOA acknowledgement. She hung up on me." "Did she say why it was under review?" "No. But she tried to get me to stop work. I told her I had a contract and a timeline. She did not like that." I felt the pieces clicking together. Shirley had known about the survey all along. She was just pretending it did not exist so she could pressure me into tearing the fence down before anyone looked too closely. "What happens if she tries to find me?" I asked. He sighed. "Honestly, man, she does this all the time. Last year, she went after a guy for painting his mailbox the wrong shade of black. He ended up at a hearing and the board dropped it because she could not prove the paint code. But it took him 3 months, and he spent $1,000 on a lawyer." "I do not have 3 months," I said. "The surveyor can only come today and rescheduling takes weeks." The contractor was quiet for a second. "If you need a witness statement, I will write one. I have the email trail and the acknowledgement from the HOA office. Shirley is manipulating minutes and agendas to erase objections after the meeting. I have seen her do it before." I thanked him and hung up. Then I emailed the HOA management company with a formal records request. All meeting minutes, all design guideline amendments, and all correspondence related to my address in the past 60 days. I sent it certified and kept the receipt. If you are enjoying this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more HOA nightmare tales. 2 days later, I got a response from the management company. It was a single line: "Your request is being reviewed by the board. Please allow 10 business days for a response." 10 business days would put me past the hearing date. Convenient. I called my attorney, a guy I had worked with on a contract dispute last year. He picked up and I gave him the rundown. "Do you have a copy of the survey?" he asked. "Yes." "And the permit?" "Yes." "And the email acknowledgement from the HOA?" "Yes." He laughed. "Then you are fine. Bring all of it to the hearing. If they try to fine you, we will file for a restraining order and a declaratory judgment. But honestly, once you show the survey, they will probably fold." "What if they do not fold?" "Then we go after them for harassment and abusive process. But that is expensive and slow. Try the meeting first." I thanked him and hung up. I felt better, but I also knew Shirley was not going to back down easily. That afternoon, my doorbell camera caught her walking up my driveway again. I watched the live feed from my desk. She had her phone out, filming the fence from every angle. Then, she pulled out a tape measure and stretched it from the curb to the fence line. I stepped outside. "Can I help you, Shirley?" She did not look up. "I am documenting the encroachment for the hearing." "There is no encroachment. The survey is on file." She finally looked at me, and her expression was pure smugness. "Then, you will have no problem proving it Monday." I pulled out my phone and took a photo of her measuring. She noticed and stepped back. "You are harassing me," she said. "I am documenting your trespassing," I replied. She snapped the tape measure closed and walked back to her car. I uploaded the doorbell video to my cloud drive and tagged it with the date and time. That night, I got an email from the HOA attorney. The subject line was notice of violation and demand for immediate compliance. I opened it and felt my blood pressure spike. It was 2 pages of dense legalese, threatening a lien, a forced removal, and legal fees if I did not remove the fence within 72 hours. The language was meant to scare me into paying instantly. I forwarded it to my attorney. He called me 10 minutes later. "This is a bluff," he said. "They are trying to intimidate you before the hearing. Do not respond. Just show up Monday with your documents." "What if they actually try to remove the fence?" "They cannot. Not without a court order. and no judge is going to issue one when you have a valid permit and a survey. Just stay calm. I tried to stay calm. But then on Friday morning, a neighbor knocked on my door. It was a woman from 2 houses down, someone I had only spoken to once. She looked nervous. "Hey," she said. "I just wanted to warn you. Shirley has been going around the neighborhood telling everyone your fence is illegal and that you are refusing to fix it. She is trying to get people to sign a petition." "A petition for what?" "To demand an emergency board meeting to force you to remove it." "She already has like 15 signatures." I felt my stomach drop. "Are you serious?" "Yeah. And she is saying you are recovering from an injury and that is why you are not cooperating. She is making it sound like you are too sick to deal with it, and the HOA needs to step in." I stared at her. That was true, I had been recovering from a back injury for the past 2 months, and it had limited my mobility, but Shirley was twisting it to make me look incompetent. "Did you sign it?" I asked. "No," the neighbor said. "I think it is messed up. But a lot of people are scared of her." I thanked her and closed the door. I immediately texted my attorney and told him about the petition. He replied within seconds, "Document everything. If she is spreading false statements, that is defamation. Keep a log." I started a spreadsheet. Every interaction, every notice, every email. I wrote down the date, time, and what was said. I attached screenshots and video clips. It felt obsessive, but I knew I would need it. On Saturday, the contractor called me. "Hey man, I just got a weird call from the city. Someone filed a complaint saying we did not have a permit for your fence." "What?" "We have the permit. You pulled it yourself." "I know. But now the inspector has to come back out and verify it. It is going to delay the final sign-off." "Who filed the complaint?" They would not tell me. But I am guessing it was Shirley. I felt the anger building. She was not just going after me, she was going after the contractor, trying to mess up his schedule and his reputation. "Can you still finish the postcaps today?" I asked. "Yeah, we will be there in an hour. But if the city pulls the permit, I might have to stop work. Let me know if that happens." He hung up. I paced my living room, trying to think. Shirley was escalating faster than I had expected. She was not waiting for the hearing. She was trying to bury me in complaints and paperwork so I would give up. An hour later, the contractor showed up with his crew. They replaced the cracked post caps and tightened the screening fabric. It looked perfect. I stood on the driveway and watched them work, and then I saw Shirley drive past. She slowed down, filmed the crew with her phone, and kept driving. I took a photo of her car and noted the time. That afternoon, I got another email. This one was from the HOA management company. It was a notice of an amenities lockout, delivered like a power trip. "Due to unresolved compliance issues, your access to community amenities has been suspended pending resolution at the Monday hearing." I did not even use the amenities. There was a pool and a gym, but I had never stepped foot in either. It was just another pressure tactic. I replied with a single line, "I will see you at the hearing." On Sunday, I printed everything. The survey, the permit, the email acknowledgement, the doorbell videos, the spreadsheet, the contractor's statement. I put it all in a blue folder and set it by the door. Then I got a text from Dennis, the mail carrier. "Hey, I heard you are going to the board meeting tomorrow. If you need a witness, I can come. I have seen Shirley posting notices on your street for weeks. She has been doing it to other people too." I texted back immediately, "That would be amazing. Thank you." He sent a thumbs up emoji. Monday evening, I drove to the community center where the HOA held its meetings. The parking lot was full. I recognized a lot of the cars. Shirley had mobilized her petition signers. I walked inside with my blue folder and saw her standing near the front of the room. She was talking to 2 board members, both older men in polo shirts. They looked uncomfortable. When she saw me, she smiled. "Glad you could make it," she said. "This will be quick." I did not respond. I found a seat in the back row and waited. The meeting started at 7 sharp. The board president, a man named Gary, read through the agenda. My item was listed as compliance hearing, fence violation, at 482 Lakewood Drive. When he called my name, I stood up and walked to the front. Shirley was already there, holding a binder. Gary looked at me. "Mr. Brooks, you have been cited for a fence setback violation and non-approved design materials. Mrs. Mitchell has provided photographic evidence and a formal complaint." "Do you have anything to say?" "I do," I said. I opened my blue folder and pulled out the survey. This is a licensed survey dated 2 weeks before construction started. It shows the property line and the setback distance. The fence is fully compliant. I handed it to Gary. He looked at it, then passed it to the other board members. Shirley leaned forward. "That survey was never submitted to the HOA for review." I pulled out the email acknowledgement. Here is the email confirmation from the HOA office. "The contractor submitted the survey and received written acknowledgement on this date." I handed that to Gary too. His face went pale. Shirley stood up. "That email does not prove the survey is accurate. We need an independent review." "The survey is signed by a licensed professional," I said. "If you want to challenge it, you can hire your own surveyor. But until then, the fence is legal." Gary looked at Shirley. "Mrs. Mitchell, did you review the survey before filing the complaint?" Shirley hesitated. "I reviewed the information available to me at the time." "So you did not see the survey?" She did not answer. I pulled out the doorbell video. "I also have video evidence of Mrs. Mitchell trespassing on my property to measure the fence after I informed her the survey was on file. I have a witness statement from my contractor documenting her attempts to interfere with permitted work. And I have a log of every notice, every phone call, and every threat she has made over the past 2 weeks." I handed the video flash drive to Gary. He looked at it like it was a grenade. Shirley turned to the board. "This is a personal attack. He is trying to discredit me because he does not want to follow the rules." I kept my voice steady. I followed every rule. I pulled a permit. I hired a licensed contractor. I submitted a survey. Mrs. Mitchell ignored all of that and filed a false complaint. And now she is threatening me with fines and liens to cover up the fact that she never reviewed the documents in the first place. Gary set the flash drive down. "Mrs. Mitchell, I think we need to table this until we can verify the records." Shirley's face went red. "You are letting him manipulate you. The board will back me because they are afraid of me." The room went silent. One of the other board members, a woman named Linda, spoke up. "Shirley, that is not appropriate." Shirley turned on her. "You do not have the authority to question me. I am the special assessment coordinator." Linda looked at Gary. "I move to dismiss this complaint pending an independent review of the submitted survey and permit documentation." Gary nodded quickly. "Second?" Another board member raised his hand. Motion carries. Shirley stood frozen. Then she grabbed her binder and stormed toward the door. But before she reached it, Linda called out, "Mrs. Mitchell, we will need your motion on record if you are leaving." Shirley stopped. Her hand was on the door handle. She turned back and her face was twisted with fury. "I do not need to justify myself to this board. You are all cowards." She left. The door slammed behind her. Gary cleared his throat. "Mr. Brooks, I apologize for the inconvenience. Your fence is compliant." Case closed. I nodded and walked back to my seat. A few people clapped. Dennis gave me a thumbs up from the side of the room. After the meeting, Linda pulled me aside. "I am sorry you had to deal with that," she said. "Shirley has been a problem for a long time. But nobody wanted to challenge her because she has been threatening people with legal action." "I appreciate you stepping in," I said. She nodded. We are going to recommend that the board remove her from the compliance role. But it might take a few weeks. I went home feeling like I had won. But I knew Shirley was not done yet. The next morning, I got a text from the contractor. Hey, the city inspector just called. Someone filed another complaint saying the fence is blocking a utility easement. He has to come out again. I called the city myself. The clerk confirmed that a complaint had been filed and that an inspector was scheduled for Thursday. Who filed it? I asked. She checked her screen. It came through the HOA liaison contact. A Mrs. Mitchell. I felt my chest tighten. Shirley was using the HOA liaison system to bypass normal complaint channels. She was abusing her position to keep the harassment going. Can I get a copy of the complaint? I asked. I can email it to you. 10 minutes later, I had the complaint. It claimed the fence was 3 feet into a utility easement and that the HOA had documented proof. There were no photos, no measurements, no supporting documents. Just her word again. I pulled the survey and checked the easement line. The fence was nowhere near it. The easement ran along the back of the property, not the side where the fence was. I forwarded the complaint to my attorney with a note. She is filing false reports now. What do I do? He called me within the hour. This is harassment. We need to file a formal complaint with the HOA board and possibly a restraining order. But first, let the inspector come out. When he clears the fence, we will have another piece of evidence that she is making stuff up. On Thursday, the inspector showed up. He was a middle-aged guy with a clipboard and a laser measure. I walked him through the property line, showed him the survey, and pointed out the easement markers in the backyard. He measured everything twice, then nodded. You are clear. The fence is not in the easement. Whoever filed this complaint did not check the records. Can you put that in writing? I asked. He handed me a printout from his tablet. Already done. You are good to go. I thanked him and took the printout inside. Then I emailed the HOA board with the inspector report, the survey, the permit, and a formal demand. Stop Mrs. Mitchell from filing false complaints, or I will pursue legal action for harassment and defamation. Linda replied within an hour. We are scheduling an emergency board meeting to address this. Thank you for your patience. 2 days later, I got a notification that the board meeting was scheduled for the following Monday. The agenda included review of compliance procedures and personnel actions. That weekend, I got a call from my attorney. I have some news, he said. I did some digging on Shirley. She has been the subject of 3 formal complaints in the past 2 years. 2 homeowners filed harassment claims, and 1 filed a defamation suit that settled out of court. The HOA buried all of it. How is that possible? Because she controls the meeting minutes. She was erasing complaints from the record and telling people their grievances were not documented. The management company did not catch it because they only review the final approved minutes, not the recordings or draft notes. I felt my hands shaking. So she has been doing this to other people? For years. And the board let it happen because they did not want the liability exposure. But now that you have documented everything and involved the city, they cannot ignore it anymore. What happens next? We go to the meeting and we present the full evidence package. Then we demand that Shirley be removed from her position and that the board implement oversight procedures. If they refuse, we file a lawsuit for harassment, abuse of process, and breach of fiduciary duty. I hung up and spent the rest of the weekend organizing my evidence. I printed copies of every email, every notice, every video clip, every inspector report, and every complaint log entry. I put it all in a 3-ring binder with tabs. It was over 100 pages. On Monday night, I drove to the community center again. This time, Dennis came with me. So did the contractor. We sat in the front row. Shirley was not there. Gary opened the meeting and immediately addressed the elephant in the room. We have reviewed the documentation submitted by Mr. Brooks and the city inspector. It is clear that the compliance complaint was filed without proper review of the records. We are taking immediate action to correct our procedures. Linda spoke next. We are also removing Mrs. Shirley Mitchell from her role as Special Assessment Coordinator, effective immediately. The board has determined that her actions violated our fiduciary duty to the homeowners and exposed the association to legal liability. One of the other board members added, "We are implementing a new policy requiring all compliance complaints to be reviewed by the management company before any notices are issued. And we are requiring that all meeting minutes be recorded and archived with third-party oversight." Gary looked at me. "Mr. Brooks, on behalf of the board, I apologize for the harassment you experienced. Your fence is compliant, and all complaints have been dismissed. If you incurred any costs as a result of this situation, please submit an invoice and we will reimburse you." I nodded. I appreciate that. But I want to make sure this does not happen to anyone else. I pulled out my binder and set it on the table. This is a full record of every interaction I had with Mrs. Mitchell. I am submitting it to the board and requesting that it be made part of the permanent record. If anyone else comes forward with similar complaints, they should be able to reference this. Gary took the binder and flipped through it. His face went pale again. "Thank you. We will include this in our review." Linda leaned forward. "Mr. Brooks, I also want you to know that we have notified our insurance carrier about this incident. They are conducting their own investigation. If they determine that Mrs. Mitchell's actions created liability exposure, they may take further action." That was the moment I realized I had won. The insurance carrier was the one entity the HOA could not ignore. If the carrier threatened to drop coverage or raise premiums, the board would have no choice but to implement real reforms. After the meeting, Dennis shook my hand. Man, that was satisfying. I have been watching her bully people for years. I am glad someone finally stood up to her. The contractor clapped me on the shoulder. "You just saved me from dealing with her on my next 3 projects." "Thank you." We walked out to the parking lot together, and I felt lighter than I had in weeks. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the HOA insurance carrier. It was addressed to the entire board, but Linda forwarded me a copy. The letter stated that the carrier had reviewed the incident and determined that the association's compliance procedures were inadequate and exposed them to significant liability. The carrier issued a non-renewal warning and demanded that the board implement reforms within 60 days, including third-party oversight of all compliance actions, mandatory training for board members, and an independent audit of all past complaints. If the reforms were not implemented, the carrier would drop coverage at the end of the policy term. The board caved immediately. Within a week, they hired a management company consultant to overhaul the compliance system. They also voted unanimously to accept Shirley's resignation from the board entirely. I heard through the neighborhood grapevine that Shirley tried to rally support for a recall election, but nobody would sign her petition. At the next general meeting, when she tried to make a motion to challenge the board's decision, she was outvoted so hard the room laughed. Dennis texted me a photo of the moment. It was blurry, but you could see her standing at the microphone, red-faced and alone, while people around her whispered and smirked. A month later, I got a formal apology letter from the board. They reimbursed me for my attorney fees, the inspector visits, and the cost of the survey. They also issued a public statement clarifying that my fence was compliant and that all complaints had been dismissed. The statement was posted on the community portal and mailed to every homeowner. The updated survey that proved everything was already on file with the HOA, but Shirley had ignored it to keep the pressure on. That was the twist that broke the case. When I emailed the proof to every homeowner right before the meeting, Karen walked into an ambush. The board could not hide behind her anymore, and the whole neighborhood saw the truth at the same time. I still live in the same house. The fence is still standing, and it looks great. I have not heard from Shirley in months. I heard she moved to a different neighborhood, but I do not know for sure. I do not really care. What I do know is that the insurance carrier issues a non-renewal warning, demands reforms within days, and the board caves because the whole neighborhood could lose coverage. The reforms stuck. The new compliance system requires every complaint to be reviewed by an independent third party before any notice is issued. The board has to document every decision, and the minutes are audited quarterly. Shirley's reign of terror is over. Dennis still delivers my mail, and he always gives me a thumbs up when he walks past the fence. The contractor calls me every few months to tell me about another project where someone tried to pull a Shirley and he shut it down with my binder as a reference. I am apparently a legend in the local contractor community now. And the fence? It is still the best decision I ever made. I work my video calls in peace, I have privacy, and I never have to see Shirley's gimbal rig again. Until next time, thanks for watching.